From the context of the Bible, uh, when we talk of this information about finances, it is godly. And you realize, even not always just consuming everything, but also ensuring that there is something that is that remains. And according to according to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4 to 5, it talks about how God was creating the earth and the whole story. And he was able to stop some development on the world because he noted there was no capacity. And how do we grow our capacity as Christians? You realize mostly it is usually by us learning more information about finances, managing the finances, and then God is able to bless us. Because he talks of even the 1,000 cattle on a hill. It means there are so many resources that we can tunaweza pata as long as we have the capacity. And today we are going to build the capacity so that you are able to access to the resources that the kingdom of God has. Because the kingdom of God needs financials and also some of the activities that want to push the gospel usually require finances. So, and as I go to my first topic of budgeting, I don't know how many times we have looked into our budgets as individuals. Ama ni ile pesa ikikuja, then I will plan for it. I don't know how many have budgeted. Ama they have an active budget right now. Watu wangapi wako na budget? That's around 1%. And one of the biggest assumption we should make that I don't have the money for me to budget. So I wait for the money to come so that I'm able to budget. But as I stated earlier, if money you don't plan for it, because when we talk of budget, tunaongea kuhusu guiding or even apportioning your resources, either zenye uko nazo, ama that will come, so that zikikuja they just fit in to the given allocation. But the danger of us not having a budget is so huge because anything will come and then anything will go. And those decisions that we make on day-to-day basis, they will differentiate us from, let's say today I'm able to enforce some of those rules of budget. In 10 years' time, I will be different from someone else who did not follow a budget. You realize most of us, what happens, we usually spend so much money, but we have not determined where that money was supposed to be budgeted or even was to be used in a given field. And today I'm going to use a given simple rule whereby we usually allocate, we usually call it 50, 30, 20 rule. And because we are Christians, I want us we include, we say 50, we say 10, 50, 20, 20. And this rule, the ratio, you're able to share your sources of income. Because you could be employed, unaweza kuwa unafanya biashara. So you realize, ukiwa na a budget, and then you use that rule. Let's say the 10% is the tithe aspect. So anytime you get some money, you're able to allocate 10% to tithe, and then the 50%, you go to the needs that you are able to sort. Meaning, hata kama ni biashara unafanya, you're able to allocate, because when we talk of needs, ni zile vitu ambazo huwezi fanya bila. Kama ni rent, hizo mambo na utilities, mambo na utilities ni kama maji, stima, telephone, airtime. Zile vitu ambazo sio luxury ama sio vitu ambazo huwezi fanya bila. So unazialoketia the 50%. And then you are left with 40%. Because tulisema any income, to assume ni 10,000. With this 10,000, tumesema 1,000 should go to tithes. Then we are left with 9,000. 50% of the 10,000 it goes to the needs, zile vitu ambazo huwezi fanya. So kama the head of the family, you are able to check how are my expenses. And some time back I did a training somewhere, and people were amazed because how much money goes to your kitchen. Mara nyingi unapatanga, we don't take that into account because tunasema pengine ni sekta ya si ni ukweli? But you'll be amazed how much goes to kitchen. But by the fact ya kwamba haijabudgetiwa, unapatanga today you're able to use this without even noting somewhere. Tomorrow you use something else also without noting. And eventually at the end of the day you may find imeweza hata kuchukua almost 30-40% of your total income. Because the way you treat money is the way it treats you back. If you be gentle with money, the money will be gentle with you. That's true. I will ask a question, a very, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Kuna siku ushaipata when you have money, or when you don't have money, you may survive even with 1,000. Si ni ukweli? How many have ever survived in a week with 1,000 or less? But when money comes, 10,000 next week, so you're going to survive with it. Si ni ukweli? So, because money, pesa inakunga flexible. Money will come this week, you have a lot of money. Needs, ndizo zitaamuka. Unarealize hii anasijavaa suti kwa siku mbili. So what happens? You buy a suit. But the moment you don't have much money at your disposal, you are able to constrain yourself to whatever you have. There is someone who said, an economist, anaitwa Richard Dara, who is the father of behavioral economics. Alisema hivi, when dealing with money, we are not rational, all of us. But we make decisions ambazo zina deal na pesa based on the emotions we are undergoing. So meaning, if you are earning 10,000, and today I come and talk to you with sympathy, and perhaps I'm able to get sympathy from you. Even if you have not budgeted some money to me, so you are going to give me. So meaning, most of the time, when making financial decisions, we are usually influenced by our emotions. At what stage are we? That's where you find when you are happy and perhaps your wife comes and requests some money, si utampea. Hata utafikiria wacha nani hii nilikuwa nimepanga. But because you are emotionally happy, you realize you make decisions ambazo after some time they will catch up with you. So the 50% tumesema hiyo ni ya the needs, things that you cannot do without. So we are saying kwa ile 10,000 that you had earned, so the formula you can use it in any amount that you are able to generate. And here I'm talking to a business person. Nikiongea kuhusu mtu wa biashara namaanisha either you have a farm that you are farming, at the end of the month there is some income huwa inakuja. So you are able to use this formula kujua whereby sija allocate pesa mingi to a given area kuliko ile ingine. So unajua kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara unajua hii 50% inafaa isimamie mpaka zile salaries ambazo nalipa wafanyikazi. Umepata? And then when it comes to when you are employed, you are able to use the 50% against the income that you are able to get. I know that there's some of the ratios sometimes inaenda chini and inaweza kuwa ngumu for you to shift where you are currently, but with the time you are able to shift it objectively. And that means you're able to think, okay, where do I get these extra sources of income to ensure that I'm able to increase some of these things. So in the 10,000 that we are talking about, we are left with, so tulichukua 1,000 tukasema ni tithe, then 5,000 which represent 50% of the income, ikaenda kwa the needs that you cannot do without. So we are left with 4,000. The 4,000, you are able to divide them into two, 20%, 20% each. The first 20% can go to wants. Wants ni zile vitu ambazo pengine you want to take your family out. It should always be around 20% of your total income, because even as you run about finance management, you also need to create relationship with other people. So also the 20%, perhaps you have been invited somewhere, you're able to use the 20% to do what? To contribute to either those social programs that we have. Then the last 20%, we can allocate it to investments. Because as the Bible has said, that a wise man is the one who leaves well to his generation. So also you need to invest that around 20%. But the rate, let's say you have a big investment that you are doing, the ratio can always change from time to time. And it means that percentage of, or that ratio that I have given, it may change based on a given scenario you are in, or even the program that you are undertaking. So, sometimes we usually tell ourselves, we usually try and motivate ourselves why it's not good for us to have a budget in place. And there are some of the common issues that we usually perhaps tell ourselves, like, I don't have enough money, I will start next time. You realize those are always, actually, whenever you are dealing with budgeting, most of the time you usually try and give yourself reasons as to why not to. But when you are very intentional on budgeting, you are able to work on small things, and then you're able to celebrate yourself, because any step that you take in budgeting, it actually builds in the long run. And perhaps when you do an investment, let's say you are doing an investment on compounding interest, you realize every year, ikienda the next year, huwa accrue. And I'll take a simple example of, let's say you have done a fixed deposit, which is on compounding space, and you have allocated yourself. You realize, huwezi jua the effect at that point. But after some time, you're able to see, because the compounding aspect itakuja, na upate the interest you're earning from some programs is much more, na huwa zinakusaidia unakuwa sustainable in the long run. And you realize, when we talk of the budgeting, it should be giving you direction. Actually, you see, like the way you usually use the Google Map to get directions. The same case, if you use a budget, it is able to give you direction. And it protects you actually from going through a lot of challenges. Because when you know, let's say I want to go to Nairobi, and I'm using a Google Map, and I want us, nataka tutumie hiyo kama an example, or like a good way of ensuring that you're able to understand how well budget works. If you are going to Nairobi, there are so many routes we can use. One, I would want to get an answer from audience. We can use from here, Kiambu to Nairobi. Another route. We can go to Banana, then, or we can go to Banana and then to Nairobi. We can also use another one. We go to Ruiru and then go back. But when you have a budget, inakusaidia kujua which is the shortest route possible, and then unajiuliza what resources do I have at my disposal, and also inakusaidia kujua how well do I which area in my finances do I manage better. Because let's say I'm going to use an example. How many in this team usually ama wanajua ile mambo ya kulipa, let's say when you are dealing with airtime, kuna wale ambao huwa tunanunua kila siku, ni kweli? Na kuna wale wengine ambao wananunua monthly. Out of the two, it is equally important for you to understand how much do I use at the end of the month. Because, and I will use a simple example. If every day, on average, how much airtime do I use, or someone uses, perhaps from the audience? Ile pesa ambayo unatumia kila siku. 100, So in a month, that's how much? 3,000, huh? Assume, you know, that's because unaona mimi nitakuwa napata 100 kila siku, but ukijumuisha pamoja, unapata at the end of the day, you have used 3,000. But do you know, you can use 1,000, the same thing, by you subscribing to a monthly program, whereby you are given, like I think Safaricom gives around 400 minutes with 1,000, 900 minutes, 800 minutes. 800 minutes can last you for a month. Do you know that? Do you know that? So you are able to save because first of all you are able to understand and where do I spend what and how much do I spend when. So operating with a budget, I would call it like a call to action from today is, can you understand first of all what are your incomes? Do I get incomes from business, from salary, from donations? First of all, you get what you earn, and then you're able to understand what areas do I spend this amount on. And mostly, I would give vote heads, ambazo, that they should be clear, that you should always align them. And one of the vote head, one of the things that we usually expense on is usually on salaries. Because hata kama umeajiriwa, even before you agree on all other things, you should allocate some money for yourself. Allocate the tithe. Actually, the tithe should come first. You go to utilities. Wale ambao pengine wanalipa maji, stima, and all those telephone bills. Also, they should be allocated some amount. And then also, you're able to allocate, let's say things like school fees. Because you know, at the end of the year, because most of us, we should have like a school fee structure for the next year. So if you're able even to see, okay, I'm going to allocate myself this given amount, this given amount, this given amount, and this I'm going to clear my school fees. Because if you're able to deviate from always acting on emergencies, you realize we are able to harness even our financial freedom. Because most of the time, the practical example ni ya kwamba kila wakati unapata kuna kitu inatukimbi ama hikuangi hivyo. Ama nani hana kitu inamkimbiza saa hii. So you realize that, so a budget inakuja inatusaidia kwamba not always that we are rushing to something. Let's say mtoto amefukuzwa, you are there. Nyumba imefungwa, you are there. Ama ng'ombe imefanya hii na hii, ama biashara imefanya hii na hii. So a budget is able to save us from that situation whereby we are able to even understand better our financial position. And the moment you take that stock, it prepares you even to achieve. And also, inakusaidia namna gani? You are able to categorize your goals. And how you categorize your goals, unaweza zidivide. Kuna zile ambazo ni urgent, kuna zile zingine ambazo ni short term, na kuna zile zingine ambazo ni long term. So let's say you want to buy a plot. I would assume that's a long term objective. So ni kweli, ama goal. So you are able to, with the 20% we had talked about, although I said it can vary, you are able now to see, okay, this is my long-term goal, and this is my short-term goals. If perhaps feeding your family is the urgent goal, that should be an immediate objective that you are trying to solve. And I remember, what budget tries to bring about is balance in all areas. Because a human being always has three aspects. One is the economical aspect, the second one is the spiritual aspect, and the third one is the social aspect. So a budget, or even a good budget, should always try and balance all those things. It doesn't mean that now you're working with a budget, you stop supporting other programs or even social activities, but you're able to do them using a given order. Let's say as church, we have agreed that this year we are going to, I have pledged to give 20,000 towards the projects of the church. So in your budget, you are able to allocate a given amount that every month I will be contributing 500 shillings. And you have not done that blindly. You have done that by, first of all, taking a stock of where you are, and then understanding, do I bring on board this program? Because when we don't even operate with a budget, you realize most of us, we just pledge, and then when it comes to honoring, see, we usually, tuseme Baba Mudhoni akikuja kuitisha unaona kama anakukimbiza. That's true. But when you are able to incorporate some of these things, it becomes very easy. And budget actually is able to open all other doors for you. Because I have said I will talk about debt management. Through this budget, you're able to know how much money am I allocating to a debt. And even as I talk briefly about debt, it means you owe someone else, an organization, some money. So you realize, like, how you're able to approach it, just in a brief. First of all, you're able to take a stock of the debts that you have. And then there is a model, snowballing, whereby you're able to check your debts. And then you're able to check which of these debts have high interest, which of these debts are long-term, which of these debts zinakukimbiza kabisa. And then now from there, understanding there, perhaps you're able to check which are short-term and have high interest rates. Then unaanza kulipa hizo. And then you're able to go down by down. Because sometimes when we make a mistake with debts, sometimes we always think that solving a debt is by getting another debt. So that's where you find when you have not, perhaps you have not got good holding of your finances, you realize, and this is how it starts, by the way, because there are so many predatory lenders outside here that actually even affect our lives. And this is what happens actually. A predatory lender anakuja anakuambia, okay, let's say, John, do you know we can give you 2,000? So what happens? So you just get, they will tell you just download this app or just use this USSD code, you get this 2,000. Once you have that 2,000, because this debt you are not planned for it, or this debt, how do you factor in your budget? So what happens to it? So you just do consumption. So utasema wacha nikule nyama ama ninunue kitu fulani. So that amount of money, you have not done any investment. So there is nothing in a reta. So what happens? Within 2 weeks, this is what will happen. They will tell you, if you pay this 2,000, we are going to give you 4,000. And then, so you are able, unaenda ukipanda the ladder till you get the maximum. And perhaps the maximum is 30, 40,000. So what will happen to you is, because they share the data with other lenders, so now you will find another app telling you, John, here, if you do this, we are going to give you 6,000. And that's where you find people start getting from one application or an app, lending app, they go to another one, they go to another one, they go to another one. And then eventually, when you listen to an individual, you may hear they have even hundreds of thousands of money. And because the way they have been raising on that perhaps lending, haikuangi is sustainable. Because you find, mostly what people usually do, ukiambiwa will give you more money, unaenda unakopa, mtu mwingine anamwambia, hebu nipe kwanza 3,000, niongeze na ile nyingine niko nayo, nilipe hii loan, alafu nikurejeshe. I know some of us washaijipata in such a situation whereby you are like, you have like, nikichukua kwa mfano, if I do a sample kwa simu zenu, I may find 2 or 3 apps a day. Si ukweli? How true is that? I want to see by a show of hands. Anajua mnajijua. Yeah, it's true. Because unajaribu kuondokea debt, but you are not facing your debt objective. Because mostly, because hii pesa hujaipata in lump sum. So mostly umeitumia in consumption, na mostly there is no returns in Areta. And it becomes very dangerous. You may find a brother in church, ako stress kabisa, wondering how do I come out of this debt? Because even in the first place when aliingia, it was also hakujua, because inakuja kidogo kidogo. So when you are able to take care of your budget, you're able to even ask yourself, how do I come out of this debt? You're able to choose, what objective am I solving? Because the objective of you having a budget, it could be based on a long-term objective that you want to achieve. It could be, I go out of debt, I pay my school fees for my kids. Also, perhaps I buy a plot. I'm able to increase my sources of income, because the moment you realize your incomes is zinaenda chini, you're able to ask yourselves, what other skills do I have, and how can I monetize them?